Good evening, guys. This is the chapter 7 of Sociology Volume 1. Uh, this for topics, the topics which are being discussed in these chapters, these are very important for cracking Sociology Paper 1, which is the questions, most of the questions which are being asked these days are somehow related to how politics and society are connected. So, in this chapter, we'll basically look at what is the connection between politics and society. But to understand how politics shapes society, we first have to understand the concept of power. Now, there will be different sociological theories on what power is, and one of them will be the theory of power elite. Now, guys, when I'll be discussing these topics, there will be almost 42 years of solved papers. I'll be including the questions first and then I'll be teaching you the topics. So, in this background, we'll look at the basic theories and then these will be the broad dimensions. And then, after understanding those, we'll look towards the specific dimensions like in various sociological theories what is the basis on which evaluation is being done. And now after power elite theories, there will be criticism of that theory also. So here we'll have a pluralistic thesis of power. Now, no discussion on power is complete unless and until you understand the basis of it, and the basis is bureaucracy, the modern day phenomena which you see around yourself. Now, distributive power, and when we study about this, we'll go through pressure group and interest group, and then we'll look at the core concepts of political parties, nation states, nationalism, citizenship, democracy, civil society, and ideology. Now, there will be when we'll be studying these chapters, these subtopics of this chapter, we'll look at the what various sociologists have to say about those, and we'll combine their theories with the conventional thinking. So now, if I introduce, then we first of all you should have a basic understanding of the difference between sociology and psephology. Now, when I say the you already know when we conduct any sociological studies, we connect the political atmosphere or the phenomena under the study with the functioning of the society and various constituent parts to it. And most of the constituent parts, which are like it comprises of people, the groups formed by them, or even their culture. But this is a separate field. When I talk about election and its results, like opinion polls are there, exit polls are there, or various electoral surveys, then these will come under the domain of psephology. Now, whenever politics word is used in common parlance, it is most of it is about power, about strength, about influence. So now, uh, what how sociology looks at it is what is power and what are the different kind of power relations, like superior, inferior, how is it evolving in the society, and what kind of the relation are there between the various groups or the constituent individuals as well as elements. Now, Marx here, to introduce you, already you would have gone through the conflict theory. So, Marx is of the opinion that power is being concentrated in the hands of the few, and most of his thesis is based upon the two classes, and one class having disproportionate power and influence in respect of other class. Now, in Max Weber thesis of bureaucracy, you will actually see how he considers the concept of power and authority. Now, whenever I talk about political behavior in our country, you will notice that it's more about people behave in a kind of groups, and in the groups there are certain kind of leaders, and when these leaders operate, they always choose a specific kind of ideology which is not static, it is dynamic and changes based upon the situation. Now here, uh, you can add it, you can club this issue with the social movements. Now in a social movements, it is not always about society alone, but also what power relations are currently underway in the society. And most of the movements are about raising the standard of, or raising certain demands, which in effect would mean raising the standard of a particular target group. Now TB Bottomore, the what TB Bottomore says here is very important, because he will say that primarily the political institutions are associated with how power is divided in the society. And when you look at the very specific basis, you will look at the broad power thesis begin to influence the micro changes in the society. Now you will, in the later parts of the chapter, you will go through the thesis of great tradition and little tradition. I won't brief you now, I just use this name. You can go through if you want, Google it down. But overall, if you look at how sociologists, because you cannot have forever ongoing uh, deliberation on this subject, so sociologists basically they try to limit uh, themselves to the broader dimensions, and then only if they want to have undertake an advanced study, they will look at its thesis. Now, this is really important. As you can see, it has already been asked in 1979 to 2010. So we'll go through these questions, but first we'll understand this subject and then we'll see how we can use it to answer the various questions. Now, the concept of power, it was asked in 1985 paper 1. So what is concept of power? It is the ability of individuals or groups to carry out their will even when opposed by others. So if you see any, this individual has power to change life of millions. So what he will do, he will frame a law. Now this law will impose a tax, or it will deny a tax, or it will deny certain privilege. So in effect, this individual will have the power to control others at his or her will. Though it is not always that you should look at it as a negative dimension, because uh, you can have a kind of expansive power. I'll tell you what expansive power means, but you need not associate the negative conception towards the power right now. Now, first of all, you should know the difference between coercion and authority. Now, I will say, when you have certain kind of legitimacy to what you do, like people chose this person, then it will be, whenever you do such a thing, it will be exercising of authority. But if this guy and this guy, he has no authority but he imposes his will, it will be coercion. So you need to differentiate between these topics. Now here you can classify the powers based upon personal power. Like, you will see that there will be certain individuals who are just, I'll take the name of the individuals like Mahatma Gandhi, like knowledge. Those in the government service who will have more knowledge rule. Emotions, you are not being drowned by the emotions, but take decision in a very scrupulous manner or in a very deliberate manner. Now if you are part of a group and you are represented in that group, then you will possess a community power. Now not always the one who lives in a group is the head of it, or it might happen that the group is being ruled by few. So in that circumstance, it might be elite power. Now, organizational power, you know, that National Commission of Women, or let us say farmer groups. These are the examples of organizational powers. And then you will have unorganized masses, like the people actually issue based, they conglomerate and raise. Now, here you can use Weber's definition. It is this definition, this book, if you can remember, this will be a very good thing. So, Weber's definition in Economics and Society 1922, it is the chance of men to realize their will in a communal action, even against the will of those who are participating in social action. So, a social action is there, there are certain individuals. So, the ability by which this individual can enforce action or will against the desires of these people, it will be called as power. Now there is a different notion when you will read the definition of given by the Weber. It is of the constant sum game, while functionalists have a belief that it is variable. I mean, in a Weber, there is the power is constant. If this individual has more less power, then this individual will have automatically more power. But this is in conflict to functionalist notion. We'll see how. Now Parsons, in a way, he is of the view, or he is of the sociological view of equilibrium. So he'll always say that power differential is necessary for effective pursuit of goals of society. If a society has to function, then this power differential is important. Now, uh, you can go through the previous year's questions. So, the difference between power and legitimacy. So, Sociology paper 1 1979. You can now also go through power, prestige, and authority. What is the difference between the concepts? We have just seen what is power, how it is different from authority. Now, prestige is a different issue. So, you can use the common parlance meaning of it. Now, authority, how can an authority gain legitimacy? So, this you'll write in the light of political legitimacy, then economic legitimacy. So, you can do that because I gave you enough examples. So, then you'll also go through the concept of political elite and their orientation. That is in 2001. You can draw parallels from our political system. It will also be covered in the subsequent paragraphs. Then the sources of powers, I have directly given the classification of power. You can just carve it down and then you can use them in your answers. Now, this is an interpretive question that was asked in 1983. Do you view that legitimacy is a powerful instrument in the hands of elite in a contemporary society? So, here you will first of all quote what is your understanding on this, then you can take aid your answer with the views of different sociologists, and you can also uh, tell that what are the grounds ruling elite use to legitimize their authority. Now there is a report card Association for Democracy, Rights of Politics and Criminalization, so you can use it to answer this question. Now, what is authority? We have already seen it is a form of power which is legitimate. There will be certain rules backing it. Right? It will perceive, people will perceive it to be done in right and just manner. Now, certain sociological, whenever I talk to you about sociological thoughts on power, the Michael Mann thesis on power is really important. What he says that there are multiple bases of power. He also identifies them, and he saw it as the ability of a human race, or the ability to control the environment. And he is not of the view that power is held by the individuals alone. He says that even the people, even the common masses, can have power through collectives. And he differentiates between distributional and collective power, respectively. So he also drews to classify the power as extensive power and intensive power. Now, extensive power will be whenever you take the decision. Whenever you take the decision, what is the range or how many individuals get impacted by it? But when I talk about intensive power, it is how much deep down it has its impact upon it. For example, the government implements certain tax. So whoever gives tax will be the reach of power or extensive power. But how many are being able to, how many will comply to it? That will be the impact of power. And then you can have that if the power is exercised and is followed by the people, then it is authoritative power. But if it is subtle, I mean, there is a certain sporadic event, people conglomerate and then they begin exercising power, then that is a kind of diffused power. So he says that there can be four sources of power, like economic, political, military, and ideological. So these are explanatory only. Um, Now we'll also analyze this. What is the criticism of the above thesis? So the new age sociologist says that you have seen globalization spread across continents, and there is more influence and hearsay and saying of the transnational companies and organizations. They also have begun exercising different kinds of power.